For sure, for sure. Right, well, I am set and ready. I think I got everything good to go. Chat, I want to know from you, are you ready? I am going to be going through, like, a list of questions and topics that I've been wanting to discuss, but please, chat, if you have anything for myself or for... What do you want me to call you, by the way? Happy with, like, Doctor or Donovan? Like, what do you want to go for?
Whichever one's easiest for you, honestly, I can go. People never get my name right the first time, so I'm kind of just immune to people.
Yeah, is it because I've been saying Boson, but is that correct?
Yeah, Boson. It's I think the subatomic particle.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, cool. Then we're on the same page. Nice. See, Sai's a smart physicist, man. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, then let's jump into it. Chat, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I'll do what I can to get to them and stuff like that. But for now, we're just going to kind of have a talk. So, just starting off then, Boson, do you just want to introduce yourself, talk about what you do on the game, how you're involved, and I guess how you came to be a part of the team?
Yeah. My name's Donovan. I am the creative director, and I'm also doing a whole bunch of creative design and balance for the video game unit design. And I do a whole bunch of other stuff that isn't super important for the front end. I was one of the kind of core people from way back in the day. Most of the company came together after a series of posts from our creative head and our lead world builder Dylan Kahn on the old StarCraft 2 forums. Posted a big long like 3 articles just being like, hey, I liked this faction in Brew War because of this reason, and it's like a little bit different in StarCraft 2 and it feels off, and here's why. And it's just like 3 of these back to back. I read the first one, I think it was the Protoss one, and I was like, that's really interesting. And I reached out, and they were like, they told me, well, they're putting together a mod. We want to experiment with RTS design and see if we can kind of capture some of that old magic from Brood War without disrupting the way that the direction they're trying to go for in StarCraft 2. We did that for a couple of years. We met Travis. I think Coulter, our director of game, is also on there. Travis from Starbow, one of the lead game designers on that mod, kind of ended up in the ecosystem. We just talked, and from modding, we got around to, hey, let's make the thing, right? Let's see if we can actually put this to the test, and now we're doing that. The humble story of being angry at a video game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how a lot of, if you look at today's games, some of the biggest esports in the world, things like Dota, League of Legends, these were born out of custom maps from Blizzard's games. You mentioned Brood War, but of course, there's Warcraft 3 and there's StarCraft 2. And a lot of these games that are popular today were born out of those games. So, there's definitely that community magic that's inspiring people to make their own game, and it's amazing that you guys are doing it, you and the team. But chat says you're still an intern, though, so how are you,
The everlasting memes. The short version of this is I technically just graduated. There's a bunch of shenanigans that lead up to this, but effectively, as part of the program that I'm in, I had to do an internship, and I've been working with these guys for a decade already at this point, right? So, I did my internship.
You have to get them coffee and whatnot, yeah?
Yeah. So now I am just the forever intern. When I become CEO, I will have my desk will say intern.
Oh, that's fantastic. You're going to get a lot of new employees when things blow up, and they're going to be like, oh, you're an intern as well. Can you help me out on my first day? And you're going to be like, get out of here. Find somebody else. Right. Awesome. So I want to then ask you then about the game. And now that we know, we've seen a little bit of it, I was playing it on stream, and thank you everyone in chat for watching and having a good time with it. Thank you, Solomance, for letting me beat you. Again, I'll PayPal you later. But right now there are 2 factions. And I'm actually blanking it. No, the Karath and the Arrow are the 2 factions. So what made you decide to go with 2 factions? And I'm assuming there's not a third or any additional ones planned, right? Is it a 2-faction game? And talk us through that decision.
So it is not a 2-faction game. This is one of those things where we've... one of our first interviews way back when, we mentioned that we don't actually have I don't think we have a planned cap we're going to keep introducing factions over the course of the game's life cycle.
Wow.
The first two are Karath and Aru, as good introduction factions. Karath is a wonderful, like, you can kind of like slam your face into the keyboard and you'll have a functioning army.
The Protoss, good.
Yeah. It captures that kind of like fantasy and spirit. And we wanted to introduce a second faction that's also kind of familiar, got a little bit of Terran, a little bit of Zerg. And we've got two factions we can show off some asymmetrical gameplay and start testing a little bit of weirder stuff. We have more factions coming. I believe our launch of beta will have our third faction, Jorah, which is going to be our proper like human engineering people faction. And we have more coming after that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what the order is, but we'll have Iratek, which is another kind of plant person faction, but this is a lot more of like an elegant garden kind of plant.
Oh, lovely.
We're going for a very like samurai kind of feel.
Okay.
They're gonna be fun. And then the next two factions, I don't know if we've said which order they're coming in yet, but we have plans for an additional human faction that is distinct from our third human faction, Jorah. They're more Jorah's a lot more like diesel punk and kind of like just getting engineering working, and they gotta do a war, so
Okay.
And then we have the next human faction is going to be a much more what's the word, kind of elegant, but also kind of horrible fascist. You got to get the Imperial Man thing kind of going,
Okay. Yeah.
A good trope. And then after that, we have we've got kind of like a Cthulhu cult kind of a thing. They were hijacked by extra universal god entities who want free real estate, and they're just doing the work. And
right. Okay. So kind of the whole like summoning their gods or whatnot, that kind of thing. Okay. Yeah. Sacrifices, that kind of thing. Interesting. From all of those, I mean, for me, I'm a very druidic kind of guy. So for me, that is right up my alley. Where you said that, like more nature, like elegant samurai style.
Iratek are gonna be fun.
That's probably gonna be what I end up maining. So yeah, that definitely speaks to me. But I'm sure in chat as well, you're taking a lot of boxes with those factions. So that's really interesting. I didn't realize that it was uncapped, as you say. How daunting is that from a balancing standpoint to say, hey, we're gonna just bam, here's a new patch or a new expansion, and bam, here's a whole new faction now that's got to fit into the meta. Are you hoping that it's going to cause disruptions, that it's going to cause friction, or do you want it to kind of jump in and already be as if it was in from the beginning?
So there are a couple of different things that we're trying to do to help alleviate the downsides that come with a large faction count, and get the benefits of, you have all these different kind of play styles and identities that people have the option to kind of dive into. One of those is our approach towards balance. It's once you get past a certain faction point, you run into something called the matrix problem, which is you have so many different like axes of things interacting with each other. If you change like this value for one thing, then you like break like 3 breakpoints for like other units that they interact with, and it becomes just all extremely complicated. So once you get past a certain point, you can't really get like a 50% balance, 100% across the board, perfect like spreadsheet balance. So we wanted to explore the Dota 2 avenue of balance, where everything is broken.
So nothing's broken.
Exactly. You get just various degrees and flavors of broken. And as you introduce, and when you look at something like League or Magic the Gathering does this as well, as you introduce new things into the ecosystem, the goal isn't, okay, everything needs to be 100% 50-50-50 balance. It's, what does this disruption do? What are the stories that come out of this? And what are the strategies that people can latch onto and create interesting play? It's like, were you on, did you ever watch like old school StarCraft 2, like Esports around whenever the game was launched, like 2010-ish?
Yeah, that's when I kind of like exploded into watching Esports. Yeah. And that was StarCraft.
Like that,
yeah.
all of the crazy strategies people were discovering every day, and like the first time you saw who was it? Was it Boxer who did the? No, it was Marine King Prime who just like crazy like Marine splits that completely broke the early game. Like that stuff was happening like every tournament, right? If we One of the things we're hoping for with introducing new factions is kind of keeping that energy through the game's entire life cycle. We can if we're introducing new factions every year or two. I don't know what the pipeline looks like. We can keep that kind of like feeling of discovery even 10 years on, and that's something we're really excited for.
Yeah, that's amazing. I guess it's kind of like a rock paper scissors kind of power like triangle, where it's like, yeah, this thing's OP against this thing, but this other thing is going to counter that, and it's going to move in that kind of symbiotic relationship. Yeah, okay, that's really cool. Definitely good luck, because I know that your Reddit page is going to be absolutely, your forums are going to be full with, oh my god, fix this, this is so OP, this is so busted. So good luck to you and the team. Good luck to the community managers. They need a raise. I don't even know who they are yet, but they already need a raise. So yeah, I mean, then can you talk us through some of the lore? Like, what is the universe? Because for me, when I get into video games, I'm never normally that interested unless there's something tying me in. And a lot of the time that's the lore, that's the interest in the characters. Like I say, hey, there's this kind of nature samurai style race. Cool, I'm already locked in. I'm already in. Now let me see the gameplay. So can you talk us through some of the lore of the game and the universe that this is in?
Yeah, so some broad things just to kind of set the context. One of the things that we're shooting for is the very large-scale, intricate world building. We have 3 primary like planetary bodies in our star system, and all of our civilizations are on one of these planets. And we're trying to dig in to make sure that the lore of the game is developed enough and interesting enough that it can be expanded outside of an RTS, right? We want to make sure, leave the avenue open for comics, and if we end up with like $80 trillion like shows, maybe movies, definitely books. So we're trying to set up that kind of ecosystem. So in our world, 10,000 years ago, there was a horrific conflict where the elder civilizations who had harnessed the power of the god star at the center of this star system faced off against this unfathomable threat, and then they've sealed the threat away and they disappeared. And as far as everybody knows, they're super duper dead, haven't been seen in 10,000 years. And in the last 10,000 years, stuff's continued to happen on our like close up like violent nature world. Lots of jungles, lots of volcanoes. You've had these like intelligent plant like beings evolve. This is the Aru and this is the Iratek, the just kind of living plants. They've had a conflict over the last like 200-ish years where the Iratek, our samurai plant people, are trying to like basically conquer nature around it and make it beautiful, because nature's ugly. Nature's metal as hell, and they're like, no, we gotta. This has to be pretty.
We need order.
Make this, yes, we have to have order. And they're failing this battle like 200-ish years ago, and one of the high priestesses starts getting whispers in her ear from the Blood Mother.
Okay.
And gives in, and this creates a schism out of which the Aru emerge. They exodus away with like 3 of the pillared kingdoms of the 9 pillared kingdoms of Iratek, and then they get transformed into the Aru, and they're kind of half plant, half biological now. So you have this blood cult god thing that are like vying for the great hunt to manifest Lakulathon, the Blood Mother, into like saving reality from itself and the terrors of. And the Iratek are understandably very angry about this because this is not what they want, and it like rended their like plant hive mind in 2, and it was this horribly traumatic event. At the same time, on this other planet, you've got this completely different conflict with the angels. Like 1,000 years ago, sat down and started trying to enact order upon the mortal races on this planet to make sure that the thing that killed the elder races like doesn't happen again. You're not gonna get the opportunity.
A lot of order, just everything in order. Nothing can go wrong.
And humans, being humans, aren't happy about this. There's thousands of years of humans trying to not be put under a theocratic communist autocracy. And then, like 200 years ago, the god of Karath just kind of dipped out, had something he needed to take care of, and left everything in the hands of the archangels. And this caused a problem where they weren't really expecting their godhead to disappear. So they kind of fractured and they've contracted, and they're trying to get their order to rebuild their order. The human republic of Jorah has arisen out of the ashes left behind by this. Telmetra, the other major human power, rose up out of this, and they're fighting for different things. Telmetra wants to make sure that humans are never conquered by anybody else again, because that was very bad. And Jorah wants to make sure that people have self-determination. So we have all of these different factions doing all of these different things, and same time all of this stuff is happening, the God Star in the center of the system is waking up, and the great gates that link all of these planets together are about to open up. So the angels and the humans have never seen these other like plant people Sylv, who are also in the middle of like an erupting civil war, and haven't seen the other side. And chaos is going to break loose, and all of these other civilizations that are on these planets that we haven't talked about have other shit. These gates are going to keep opening up, and conflicts will arise, and alliances will form, and there's a lot of different ways that they can kind of play out.
Okay, very, very interesting. So, with that being said, then, is there going to be? I mean, that's a lot to digest, and I'm sure that the chat and stuff will have some questions about that. But is there going to be a campaign attached to Immortal? Is there going to be this story that we're going to be playing through to unravel some of that?
So campaigns are something we 100% want, right? We fell in love. Like Brood War is one of the first like RTS games that I played, and that campaign stuck with me for however many years. It's something that we want to do, and it's something that takes a lot of resources that we're currently pouring into making sure that the multiplayer and the gameplay of the game works. So campaigns will be coming. They probably won't be in on launch. We'll have probably mini campaigns to introduce people into the factions. And along the way, we're going to have like co-op missions, kind of like the one that we had here, that are more infused with the lore to get people more involved in the world and kind of get a better understanding of what's going on. Eventually, we want to have campaigns that play out the different timelines of how things can kind of go, right? What does the timeline look like where Karath rebuilds its glory and takes down the human empires that are trying to like keep itself tied down? Like, what kind of alliances do they have to make and backstabs do they have to do in order to come out on top? And then, distinct from that, what is the difference between like an Orzum like securing victory for the Empire and reclaiming the ground look like, versus what does victory for Ajari, the Archangel of Deliverance, who's a much more empathetic angel? What are the differences there?
Yeah.
Because they're not 100. They're like on the same side, but they're not quite aligned. So what do those stories play out, and what kind of betrayals have to happen in order for that to happen? One of the things that we, on the creative side, that we want to explore is life is really complicated, and there's a lot of different ways things can go. And in this universe, timelines do branch off, and they just are a thing that exists. So we want to explore all of these different kinds of timelines that could happen, and see what kind of interesting things come out from different timelines kind of intersecting and weird things happening.
Yeah, leaving it a little bit open to give you room to breathe. Of course, I think that's a really good idea when obviously you're introducing a whole new universe and creating a game around this. So, with that being said, then how important is the competitive nature of Immortal? Like, is that first and foremost what are you aiming for, an esports title? And within that, is it like competitive esports ready on launch? Is that what your goal is? Because I know you're saying the campaigns are going to be coming later, so is that the direction that you're more so pushing in?
It's definitely one of the goals. There's two things we want to make sure we have kind of ready to go. We want to make sure that it is competitive and is something that people can engage with, right? Esports scenes obviously are very big and it's very exciting, and we want to be able to engage and provide people with tools to experience that because it's fun. And we also want to make sure that co-op is an experience that people can jump into, right? These will be kind of similar to StarCraft 2 co-op, where we've got these different kinds of missions that people can engage in, and we'll have other systems that are tied into that I can't talk about just yet, to let people play with their friends. And that's probably the Second pillar, we want competitive. We want to have that avenue available, but we also want people to be able to play with their friends, and that's something that I'm sure you've probably experienced. People have a hard time playing RTS, so if you're trying to pull in friends who aren't also already RTS players, it's really hard to get them to play StarCraft with you. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was saying, I've been trying to play a lot more of Immortal or IGOP or IGP we're going with. And I've been struggling because like I say to my IRL friends, I'm like, "Hey, do you want to play some of this game? I can get you some alpha keys." And they're like, "Oh no, like I played RTSs back in the day. Like I'm all good now." And I think a lot of them are just too old, and they're like, "Oh no, I'm almost 30. I can't do it anymore." But it's like, no, you can still do it. I went and got Diamond in StarCraft recently. You can still play. But yeah, it's definitely hard engaging people, and I think a big reason for that is because you jump on Discord and it's like, right, what big multiplayer game are all 5 or 6 of us going to play this evening? It's harder with RTSs when it's like, right, this is an individual game or whatnot. But when you can open that up to a couple people, you got co-op, you and a friend can play and stuff. I think that really opens up the gate for people to, and I no pun intended on that one, but it opens up the gate for people to come in and say, "Hey, I can teach you in a friendly manner." Because I do think that the ladder is very scary. Like I didn't really touch competitive RTSs. Like even when I played Warcraft 3 and StarCraft, which were my introductions to RTSs, I didn't ever play the competitive. Like I played against computers or I played the custom games. It's really difficult, I think, to push people onto the ladder. So is co-op kind of your angle to do that? To have a friendly push through the door?
Yeah. We've got a number of things we want to try and do. Co-op is one of the big ones. I think there's what was a stat I heard a while ago, where it's like more than 50% of like League of Legends players only play versus AI, which surprised me, but like it's a true fact. You can look that up. So like, there is a huge market of people who want to try to play these competitive games, but they don't want to play it against other people because that's scary and stressful and horrifying. Because League of Legends is League of Legends. So we want to like be able to make sure that people have the avenue to, okay, well, I want to try out this game where I can be this like godlike being and command an army to do all these cool things, and also not be forced into a competitive environment. Co-op is a really wonderful opportunity to provide them with interesting ways to engage with the gameplay experience with their friends in a significantly less stressful environment and have a lot of fun. We've also got the other thing we want to try and do is I'll say demystify the ladder, like take away some of that like scariness. We've talked about this a little bit. We want to look at introducing mini games for people to like learn how the game plays. And I think there are some of them in the client right now. There's 2 of them right now. That are like, hey, we're gonna let's see, which one do we have? Yeah, we've got 2 mini games. One of them is, okay, here's how Immortal spells work. You hit the button, and then like you can drop a pillar here, and you can use you can infuse your troops over here, and then that throws you into a mini game like thing that you can loop through for, okay, how quickly can I use without being able to micro my units, can I just use Immortal spells to just like wipe out the other side of the other side of the thing. And as people like people engage with this, and they just learn how the things work, have a high score that they can kind of play against. It's a very, very short gameplay loop for learning a very specific skill set. The second one we have is kind of similar. It's you don't get to micro your units at all. You just get to look at, okay, I've spawned a bunch of units on my side, as they've spawned a bunch of units on their side. Should I attack into them, or should I run away? And that's the mini game. And then if you attack into them and you win, you win. It's good job, you read it well, and then they set up a new one. And it's just a question of, can I read a situation and figure out if my army beats their army? And that's the whole minigame. And people love that one. So we want to have lots of tools like that for casual players who can go in and like have fun and also learn how to play the game and engage with it on a more competitive level if they want to.
Yeah, because I mean that's for me the biggest thing when I was even playing today, right? Where I'm playing and I'm getting frustrated with myself because I'm slow, I'm clunky, I'm misclicking here, I'm misclicking there. I don't have all the keybinds memorized yet. I don't know exactly what buildings I need for certain units. Recognizing everything is a bit hazy still, and I think if you can break that down, like you say, put it into mini games, and then just piece by piece, you can break through that barrier. That I think that's fantastic, and that's really easy to say to a friend. Look, we'll do some of the mini games. You can learn some of the stuff. You don't need to jump into rank straight away, and I think that's great. Awesome. Okay, yeah. I mean, hopefully the competitive scene really picks up there because. I mean, it would be nice to have a new addition to the competitive RTS scene. So, speaking within then the competitive RTS nature, a big thing, and I think this is something that Pig was talking about in a recent interview he had, I think, with a different game, but he was talking about responsiveness in movement. And again, I know we're kind of bringing up StarCraft a lot and stuff like that, but when I compare a game like StarCraft 2 compared to, say, Age of Empires, for me, like, it's night and day in terms of responsiveness. And I know that the point, or I guess the point of Age of Empires is to work and function like that, and it's designed around that. But when I played today, it definitely felt a lot closer to that StarCraft style of responsiveness. Is that something that you guys are putting a lot of time into and investment into perfecting that? Like, what's the scope with that?
So one of the things that we're very fortunate with is having Travis on the team as the lead gameplay and kind of half also a tech guy, is because of his work on the Starbow mod and some of the mods that we kind of did for like proof of concept for Immortal. Was he got a really strong understanding of StarCraft 2's pathing system and ways that you can adjust the existing system for different kinds of gameplay. He has a video from, this is years ago now, just saying, hey, if you have like units spread out slightly more and have like I think it was like a slightly increased turn speed or something, or slightly decreased turn speed, then you get this totally different like feel of a game. Even though like all of the pathing is still kind of identical, units are spread out more, you have a lower damage density, the way that units are kind of a bunch of unit relationships change dramatically. You have a lot of these like micro tricks from Brood War that were kind of lost in StarCraft 2's pathing show back up because these tiny changes in these systems. So Travis has a ton of knowledge on how to get movement working in a way that creates the gameplay feel that we're shooting for, and that's definitely something we've invested a lot in, and there's still a good ways to go. We've got a lot of optimizations coming in. There are things that there's like magic wizardry happening on the back end for like networking stuff and making sure that all this stuff kind of fits together. It's coming along. We've gotten really like close to where StarCraft 2 feels. Maybe we'll get there one day. We're definitely going to be getting close enough to.
Is that where you're aiming for? Is that kind of the peak that you're trying to find? Is StarCraft 2 responsiveness, or do you want to develop kind of your own feel?
There's a like a level. We want to hit the quality level of StarCraft, but we are going to deviate a little bit in terms of how exactly things fit together. There's a pathing. We've always referred to StarCraft 2's pathing system as School of Fish pathing, where like. Everything like moves
tons
around
on a dime.
like,
yeah.
It's like this perfect school of fish where they're like interweaving with each other all the time. And we want to move towards we want to pull away a little bit from School of Fish and make them feel more like things, like entities that are like walking around on a battlefield. It helps it helps provide a little more physicality to unit movement, but it also increases or it modifies the way that micro happens, so you get more of those kind of Brood War interactions where you have some units that are a lot more mobile and a lot more able to kind of micro with like A move tricks and stuff, or like hold position kind of micro, and you have more. It also decreases the effectiveness of AOE, which allows us to kind of pump that up without like shooting our time to kill through the roof, which is something that StarCraft had. Also, I ramble a lot, so if I'm rambling,
nah, this is all good info. You're fine.
One of the things that we discovered we did a breakdown on area effect damage between StarCraft 2 and Brood War, and looked at kind of how our all modifications to the pathing system affect how AOE like functions.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an interesting thing where like Psystorm in the original StarCraft, especially like back in the like Wings of Liberty days, they had the same like stats, like the same amount of damage was being dealt between both of the storms. They had the same radius. But in StarCraft 2, it was so much more devastating to get a Psystorm on top of your army because all of your units are clumped up so heavily that even if the spell itself is identical, the lethality flies through the roof, and it's not helped by, okay, as soon as this unit dies, then the guy behind him is like, I can run up and shoot, and then runs in and dies. In StarCraft 1, if you Psystorm on top of a group of Hydralisks, you'll kill like 7 of them, maybe 8 of them, and then the ones behind them take a couple of ticks to be like, oh, he's dead, I can start moving around, and then they can like go at a weird angle and like accidentally miss, the game isn't encouraging them to go into the kill box.
To dive into it.
So there are we looked at the pathing and unit spread and all this kind of stuff, and it modifies time to kill and like unit responsiveness and creates all these different kind of micro patterns, and that's the kind of thing that we want to pursue for our movement system with the level of polish that you kind of feel with StarCraft 2's pathing system. There's a balance we want to kind of try and find in there.
I guess as well, it's all relative, right? Like it's relative to your game. So things like you say, I'd never thought about the time to kill as like involved in the formula for pathing. So it's really interesting when you break this down. So I appreciate that. And yeah, I think it's all relative to you have a unique time to kill that you want to aim for, and so the pathing needs to reflect that. So yeah, I think that's really, really interesting to kind of hear more about that. I want to then ask, this is more, I guess, broad scope, but just wanting to know, how is the alpha going for you guys? Because you went into alpha, I want to say under a month ago, roughly a month ago. So how have things been progressing for you? Are you happy with the progress? Anything that you are surprised to have found once you open things up?
So I don't know. We'll do a little bit of spoils here.
Okay.
So we haven't done a new release since we dropped our alpha build. Right. Like we hit our alpha. We got all of our milestones in. We took some time off because putting out like getting in a gold alpha build is a lot of work. So if you don't take a fucking break.
Yeah. You deserve it.
I'm allowed to curse, right? I want.
Hey, go for it. It's okay, YouTube cool. that we have to worry about. That's fine. That's for a future side to worry about. Send it.
We have to take a break, and we've been doing a lot of work on we shifted away from, okay, we need to get these features in place in order to hit our alpha release, and we're kind of scaling back. Okay, let's look at the work that we've done and see where we can start looking for places to optimize and things that we can kind of adjust and move around. And there's been a lot of that happening in the background that we haven't actually released to the community. And the amount of like optimization in terms of performance that I've seen on the internal build is wild. It's
okay.
This is stuff when I've talked to the tech team in the past, like, hey, it's like how is there ways that we can adjust our like the maximum number of units we can get on screen, or like it's there's like network bandwidth shenanigans. I don't know, it's like wizard stuff.
Yeah.
Effectively, it's like we'll have to like get like total like adjustments to the engine and make sure all this stuff is in place. And then 2 weeks after we get back from like a post alpha vacation, they're like, yeah, like we've like quadrupled or like doubled the performance on like these particular aspects of things, and like, yeah, we just like shoved all this other stuff, like like, oh wow. And I played it, and it's like stuff that was causing, as an example, when one of the benchmarks that we were doing to test performance was, okay, we're gonna have like maxed out masked hunters and a 2v2 on both sides, and then they're all going to use an ability that spawns a buff, and we're also all going to use a different ability that also spawns. So we have like 400 units. Yeah, 400 units on each side ish. So like 700 something units that are all spawning 2 buffs on top of them at the same time, basically on the same tick on the engine. And normally, in our pre-alpha build, this like just came to a chug. It started kind of slideshowing a little bit, which was unfortunate. And we did that benchmark, and there was like a 2-frame hitch, and then it just ran, and there was nothing. It was it was wild. So stuff's coming down the line. I'm very excited to
awesome.
get that out to the playtesters.
That's awesome. So then, within that as well, are you happy with all the units that you have in the game? Do you think there's anything that you think is particularly like isn't working the way you kind of want it to? Anything that you're going to remove, maybe, or anything that you might add into the races, or are the races like, or the factions, are these the units that they're going to have on launch?
On the gameplay side, there are a lot of things we're looking at and adjusting. A part of being in alpha, it comes with the understanding that okay, we know a lot of things that do work. We need to get these into an ecosystem and see how broken some of this stuff is, because new stuff. And some of it is broken, some of it is underperforming. We're making like minor adjustments here and there for numbers and balance. And there have already been a number of design changes from the original iterations of these factions, and we are definitely gonna be making new ones.
Oh,
I
awesome.
don't know if I'm allowed to say which things.
That's okay. We can leave a little bit of, a little bit of secrecy for the chat.
They are coming down the line. We've got adjustments coming for both factions, and I'm very excited because there are some things that are going to be altering the gameplay in a way that we are very excited for, and there are other things that we don't know how the gameplay's going to alter, but it could be really fun, and we want to try it out while we have the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's worth until the MMR is in place and people start losing ranks based on these things. I think you should absolutely be limit testing here. Okay, cool. So I wanted to then ask you as well, OTK. For anyone in chat that didn't know, OTK, they had a gaming expo. Your game was announced and was kind of shown off to the stage. How was that reception? Was that really just... I mean, you mentioned earlier about when the game started to kind of feel real for you, but how was that moment seeing it on the stage?
It was crazy. I had a friend of mine who was watching the OTK Expo separately, and I hadn't told him that we were doing. Yeah, dude, your thing's on the and then right after the thing went through, I think the link that they had on the screen was actually the wrong link to the Discord. So the plan was we get this thing on screen and then we get this huge flood of people into the Discord. That didn't happen because the link was wrong, and we still got a huge flood of people, which meant that all of these people that came in from the OTK, it was it was at least 500, 400 people. It was bonkers, and it just flooded in, which means that every single one of these people saw the game and they hunted down the link.
Yeah, they went fishing for it, which is 500 dedicated people, which is a lot better than 10,000 kind of people.
Yeah,
so that's awesome. Yeah,
wild, and I'm very, very excited and we've continued to have a steady trickle of people coming in. It's very, very exciting.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, it was really cool. I was watching the expo and I saw the Discord and I was like, guys, we're gonna be on, and there's a lot of buzz and stuff. So that was really awesome to see on there. Okay, cool. And next thing as well is I was kind of wondering, where do you guys pull your inspiration from? This is going back a little bit. I know the teapot is a magnificent addition to the game. I think you should keep it in. I think it should just be the scout. But where are you pulling your inspiration from? I mean, obviously that's a placeholder. But where are you pulling your inspiration from when you were setting out to design the game? We've spoken a little bit about your pathing, where you're pulling that from and things. But in terms of art style and map design and all that kind of stuff, are there particular games where you're pulling from?
There's a lot of games we're pulling from. There's elements in terms of the art style. We're looking at stuff like Magic the Gathering is a very kind of grounded feel that helps make a lot of the fantastical stuff kind of stand out in a more interesting way. We're looking at a lot of what League of Legends and Dota 2 both do in their visual language that helps a lot in terms of clarity, and we're also looking at the stuff that makes the visual clarity, a little bit, it's kind of hard to see what's going on sometimes. And we're kind of judging all these different things and trying to pull them in terms of the visuals. In terms of gameplay, StarCraft and Warcraft are our biggest inspirations. It's a very Blizzard style RTS of, you have Town Hall, gather workers, extra resource, go out, other Town Hall, new resource expansion, do army, boom, boom. And that core gameplay is really good. I'm a big I played a ton of Brood War, played a ton of StarCraft 2, played a little bit of Warcraft 3. And a lot of our unit design is taking all of the stuff that we know works from those games, and a lot of it did because, they're really good games. And then looking at other games that are also very popular right now, like Dotas or MOBAs as a genre. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there, and part of the design exploration we did early on was, okay, there's some interesting stuff here. What kind of things work in those games that we might be able to pull into an RTS? And towers are a really good example of that.
Yeah.
In MOBAs, you've got the mid lane tower and the towers fall. What towers actually do in terms of an onboarding experience is, hey, you get to see like half the map, like as soon as you spawn into the game. And there's a very clear indicator of, okay, tower has fallen, location is lost. And it's a really clear indication of gameplay pacing and what the safe parts of the map are. In RTSs, all infrastructure that's on the player's side is normally constructed by the player. So we wanted to look at ways where we could have an infrastructure that is player generated that serves the same role as towers in MOBAs of kind of like lane delineation as well as like game pace signifiers, and opening up the map in terms of vision and allowing newer players to feel like they're less constrained in this like less spooky darkness that they have to go and like learn about. And that's so far worked very well.
I was going to kind of follow up, and I was going to say, and based on that, are there any things in Immortal that you feel that you're like renovating the space with? Like, is there anything new to the RTS scene that you're bringing in? But I guess towers in a way is that, but I guess they have been used in previous games as well. Is there anything else that you feel is like, right, this is our stamp on the scene?
I think the biggest one is probably the unified command card. The idea that you can control an entire army in a meaningful way with, everything on one hand. I guess technically Halo Wars 2 does that. But like it still kind of has that thing where you have to tab between which unit you're actually trying to like activate the ability on. But we have, with a unified command card, you can have, the entire, all like 12 or 14 abilities for your entire army, and you can access them with all of your fingers and maybe the space bar if for certain abilities. I don't think I've seen that in an ability heavy RTS before, and it's in the way that the impact that it's had on accessibility has been really, really cool. I pulled in a friend of mine who was like, hey, you're making a video game, right? I'll give it a shot. I pulled him in. He's never touched an RTS before. And then in like 10 minutes, he had built up like a medium-sized army and was going out on the map, and he was like using a couple of spells and like deploying his absolvers or whatever. And I've never seen that kind of onboarding. Granted, I was talking to him, but I've never seen anybody like have like onboard that quickly into a genre they've never played before, or into RTS if they've never played it before, because it's an exceedingly complex genre traditionally. And just out of curiosity, I was like, I'm going to show you a different RTS. He was playing Kronoth, so I like pulled up Protoss and StarCraft 2, and I just showed him like the first 5 minutes of Protoss gameplay. There wasn't any combat. It was literally just pile on, gateway, expand, probe, chrono boost, research the he's like, I have no idea what's going on.
I do feel like the APM requirement is potentially going to be less. I mean, we know professional players, right? They are going to min-max, and they will find a way to do 500 actions per minute if they have to, if they can. But it does feel like the game is streamlined that a little bit more to make things a little bit easier. You don't have to build workers and that kind of stuff. This is obviously your intention to, I'm assuming, to help kind of bridge that gap for people that maybe haven't played RTSs before. Are you happy with the pacing of that?
I'm personally very happy, and the rest of the design team has also expressed similar sentiments. And importantly, in what you said, it's not just that we are decreasing the APM requirement, decreasing like the mental cognitive load that people have to kind of accept to get into the genre. The other side of that is the pro players are still hitting like their 300, 400 AP, doing like crazy stuff. We've got a few grandmasters and masters level players in our Discord that are just crazy with the micro and the macro that they're actually able to pull off. I mentioned earlier, like I get bodied by some of our community members because they're just like really good. They have better macro than me.
Yeah.
And what that is showing us is that we've hit the proof of concept that we were shooting for. We can have a game that has really a much easier accessibility, a much lower requirement in order to engage with the core experience of I'm going to build an army and then I'm going to go out and they're going to die and I'm going to do it again. Without actually losing the higher level gameplay that we fell in love with Brood War and Warcraft 3 and Starcraft 2 of these people going absolutely wild with these just making magic happen on screen. And I think we've hit that, and there are improvements we can make, and we're getting those rolled out, and I'm super excited to just see what that looks like once we finally get all of our little like pieces and back-end stuff nailed in and just see the ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. That is like a big concern for me when I first looked at the game, and I was like, oh, they're doing a bunch of stuff to streamline and make it a lot easier to play the game. And I was like, oh, but is this going to be damaging for the competitive scene? Are too many people going to go, oh no, the game's too easy, it's not enough of a challenge? But, I mean, like you're saying, the better you are, like the easier it is to do things, the more things you're going to do now. You're just going to do more things. So, like, if you're a better player, you're just going to beat your opponent based on the fact that you perform more actions than them, and you're taking advantage of that ease of use. So, yeah, no, I mean, I think that's good. I think that's a good way of how you're designing the game so far, and like we say, trying to help establish more people in the RTS scene. So, yeah, absolutely.
I'm really excited to see transports come onto the scene as well, because right now we have we end up seeing in our 1v1s and 2v2s people kind of split their armies up in like one or two kind of big groups.
Mm-hmm.
But once, because they have to conform to terrain and map out. Once transports come in and they have the ability to invest in a unit that can break the terrain restrictions, I'm so excited to see the multitasking because people are going to start going wild with putting units all over the place and having to respond to it.
I just realized actually, yeah, there are no translates in the game, and I'm still losing. I'm in trouble. I'm in danger. Yeah, okay, yeah, no, that's going to be fantastic. I do think whenever I watch competitive RTS, for me, that's always, like you say, I mean, watching Marine splits back in the day, it's always a thing where I go, wow. Like, I love watching a player do something that I go, I don't know how they did this. It's fascinating. It feels like when you watch a movie and you're watching that character that's just like a genius or something, and you're like, dude, that's so cool how he's so smart at everything, and it makes you kind of feel good. That's that kind of feeling. I wanted then to move on to as well the I guess the purchasing of the game. It's free to play. Is there gonna be anything involved in that you're gonna be introducing, like battle passes or like different skins and things, different voice packs and that kind of stuff? Because you got to make money somehow. So what's the plan?
I
with
like
that?
to eat lunch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about the monetization because we're
understandable.
However, what I do know I'm allowed to say, we are going to be pursuing skins in terms of army customization and immortal customization. And one of the things we're being very careful with is readability in RTS is super duper critical. So we're exploring and experimenting with ways that we have the ability to allow customization and making the units in army feel like they're your own without breaking the readability. One of the retaining the silhouette of the unit is very important as one of those principles. So that's an avenue we're going to go down. Customization of the Immortal is also very important, and because they're not like a unit that's on, we have a lot more freedom in terms of that. The battle passes, I believe we've talked about. It's something we're going to be exploring, and there are a few things we want to do with that. I don't know if I can get into the details of it, but as a person who, as a frugal gamer, I'm very excited for what the battle passes allow and the freedom that we're going to allow players to engage with the content. And I think that I'm very excited to actually be able to reveal what we are doing with those systems. The last one, voice packs, are something we're investigating. I'm very excited to actually. I've been doing a voice acting and line like deep dive documentation stuff.
Okay.
I'm really excited to reveal the stuff we're doing for that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I think my my long pull as a lore oriented person, one thing that I really want to do, and this is not like a short term, this is a long term thing. We're doing all of this like cultural development and stuff for all of our like in-game cultures. I want to have someday a UI skin pack thing that changes the voice acting and changes the in-game text to all be in the language of the culture.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so you have your, instead of your like Sapari running around and being like, we're securing this land, brother. You get a Karath running in and saying, Dirastira Saba Beraki, and like, I don't know what that means.
You practiced that one.
Cool. I didn't actually. That was just
There you go.
I've done a deep dive on the language creep.
Yeah.
My brain is hurting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's like the long term like deep to just like that would siphon money out of a lore nerd like me. I would love to have that in video games. So we want to like find these avenues to be able to monetize in ways that are reasonable, without impacting gameplay, and that's another key critical part. We don't want to monetize gameplay as much as we can avoid it, while also being able to have lunch. The other thing is that Immortals will be available for purchase with in-game currency that you can play just by playing, or for real money if you have a job and you don't have time to put into the video game. The price points on that are something we're still exploring, but
will new races, when they come through, I imagine those will be something that you have to buy as part of like a faction pack or something. I can't get into
the specifics of that. There's two things that we're looking at. I think if you buy an Immortal, you gain access to that, like to the base faction as part of the Immortal purchase. So your first Immortal for any faction is like technically a higher value, but whatever. Another thing we want to look at doing is having like a free rotation thing for the different Immortals, and ideally, I don't know what this is going to end up looking like, but having every faction have one Immortal in the rotation allows for, you can play any faction, you just can't play the specific play style for that faction unless it's on the rotation.
Yeah, I like that idea. It's similar to, I guess, like League of Legends, where you have free champion rotations, and it's like, you can buy ones if you want with either real money or with like, in-game built currency, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think that's good. It allows people to experiment with something and then be like, I really like that. Okay, yeah, I want to test that thing out, but I don't want to commit to buying it. I'm like you. I'm very frugal as a gamer. Like, I've played League of Legends for like 8 years. I've spent like maybe $20 on it. I've played Fortnite. I'm a default skin kind of guy. Like, I don't really spend money on video games. So I think it's a really good approach as well. Like you're saying, trying to get more people into the RTS genre. I think having a free-to-play model is really good because it allows people to jump in and play with their friends or just try it out because they saw it online somewhere without having to fully commit. So I think that's fantastic. If you guys can stick to that, then I think that's great. Obviously, though, you still got to buy lunch, so make sure you're looking after yourselves there, especially as a hungry intern. I know how it goes. Nobody gave you the money for coffee? What? Okay, so I know that we're going to be, running out of time shortly, so I want to ask some questions from chat, but I've just got kind of a quick fire round from you. Last two things I'm curious about. So speaking of funding and money, I know as this is going to be a competitive game, there's going to be a big tournament scene. How do you have an idea of how you might want that tournament scene to run? Are you looking for like one major tournament a year? Are you looking for community-based tournaments to be a thing? Would you do prize pools like crowdfunded or set up by you guys? Like how do you, I know it's a long way off. I know you're still in alpha, but have you thought or considered any of that at all?
I know it has been thought about. I am not on the team who does that.
Right. Okay.
I know we do want to have community tournaments as a thing because those are great. So we are looking for ways to empower a community to do the tournament thing as much as we can.
Okay. Fantastic. Chat, start making your tournaments now. Okay. Then also the last question for me, and then we'll kind of go to chat. But I was curious. So as I was saying at the beginning of the show, that there are other RTSs on the horizon, as well as, of course, RTSs that are already established. Where do you think IGP really fits into the mold? Where are you trying to position yourself in that market, coming in as a new RTS?
one of the things that we're, like I said before, the thing that we're trying to shoot for primarily is allowing you to play with your friends of any skill level, any rank, or like get your grandma in for Christmas or whatever, without losing that high level competitive gameplay. We want to make sure that we can hit a broad range of people, get them engaged and excited about a new world and all of the world building and characters that we're going to be to kind of infusing this space with. And accessibility is good. I want to play with I want to play with my little cousin.
Yeah. He'll be better than you before long, trust me. What is he?
Yeah.
I mean, once they get to like 6, 7 years old, they just take off. So be careful. Yeah, no, that sounds great. Sounds great. Anything else you wanted to say on that? Are you happy?
That's it.
Awesome. Right, well, a couple questions from chat then. What about servers in different regions, says Link Solidus. Are you planning on having international kind of... I imagine you're going to have servers across maybe Europe, America?
It's the plan. Okay. It's another one of those things that's handled by the tech and business people. I know that is a plan. I don't know what the timeline is on that plan, but they are going to be a thing eventually. Great,
fantastic. Will there be a unit customize function? I guess you kind of... I mean, do you mean like hotkeys, Jaeger? With like being able to adjust what unit responds to what hotkey? Maybe I'll get them to confirm that. I don't know if you know. Maybe can figure out what they're suggesting.
I don't know, but hotkey customization is going to be a thing. One of the guys who we're working with, his name is known as Jack Attack. Tom is. Yes. He was one of the guys who spearheaded the creation of the core hotkey layout in StarCraft 2, which is. Do you know what that one is?
Remind me, but I think I do, but I don't want to embarrass myself.
It's like this hyper ultra optimized way to play the game where it like puts your hand in the middle of the keyboard for maximum access to maximum numbers of keys. Right. And it's like this like iteratively like trying to create the most efficient way to play StarCraft 2. He is in charge of our UX. So we want to make sure that hotkey optimization is a thing that we can engage in this game as well.
Perfect.
And that's very important to us.
Yeah, I know. I think I'm correct in thinking this with StarCraft. I can't remember what the term is. This, again, I know something that Pig was talking about and something that he was very passionate about when it comes to RTS is making sure that the unit hotkeys are intuitive. So if you're, if you have a unit that's keybind is E, if you then change to a different tab, and there's not another unit with that same hotkey and that kind of stuff. So you always can kind of switch between different units, different buildings, and know that you're not going to get fumbled up, because it's all about muscle memory with RTSs, right? So it's all about going, right, when I know that this unit is associated with this button. So yeah, if you got Jack Attack in shape, then yeah, we're looking good there. So that's fantastic. Who was your favorite Immortal and why?
Ooh, the existing Immortals, I am very partial to Ajari. One of the things I have two fantasies when I play RTSs. Either I am playing the "your lives are meaningless, go die for the cause" kind of a thing, which is why I play Zerg. Or I have to play every single one of you is worthwhile, and I'm going to get you back home to your families. Right? There's no in between for me. So Ajari playing as. And playing Ajari with the ability to save units and all of the units that are built around making sure that your troops can come home is a really engaging fantasy for me. And also, spearmen are my favorite kind of thing.
Yeah.
Period. I have a martial arts spear over there in the corner. It's one of my favorite things on the planet. So being able to actually have a unit in an RTS where you can, I don't know if you noticed when you were playing. If you have Sipari, a big group of Sipari, and you get them up close so that the front group is right on top, the back group, the second rank, can attack over the front Sipari. So you actually get to play a spear. You get to do a spear line, which I played that and I'm like, this is the greatest thing in the universe.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I hadn't noticed. I'll have to go back and take a look. That's awesome.
Sipari micro is one of my favorite things to do.
That is fantastic. Yeah, that opens up so many avenues for, like you say, figure out how the players are going to make use of that and optimize it. That's awesome. What about Immortals that haven't released yet? Can you tease what one of them does or something that you like about it?
So one of the Immortals for one of the immortals for Jorah that I'm very excited for. His name is Decker. He's kind of the Han Solo, like Rayner, kind of like rogue, ne'er do well kind of guy. One of the abilities we're looking at giving him is a thing where you can tag a building, and like globally it's tagged. Everybody knows that it's tagged, and there's going to be a thing where he's like, we've marked the target for whatever. If you kill the building, you get like some kind of bonus. But because it's a global thing, you don't actually have to kill the building. It's just a tag that the opponent knows you've put down. And what that opens up, if we can get this designed properly, is being able to tag a building, and your opponent doesn't actually know if you're going to go for that location or not. And I really want to see the mind games that people start doing with that as an ability.
That's very very interesting. Cause cool. That sounds really cool actually. Does it give you like vision in a small area around it, or can you literally just see that the building silhouetted is there?
I think you have to see the building. If you see the building, you can mark it. It might reveal like in a tiny radius.
Yeah, like a small, little bit.
Yeah, we'll get the specifics on that nailed in as we start playtesting it.
That's okay. That's awesome. Yeah, that definitely opens up some mind games. Right, last question, because I know we're short on time. Despair asking, how does PvP chat moderation work? Is there a code of conduct that removes toxic behavior? I mean, I guess that's a good question. That opens up to a more general thing. It can get toxic in PvP games. I assume that you have systems in place to help, like a good report system and all that kind of stuff is going to be involved, I imagine.
Yeah, all the standard stuff, like you need to be able to report people, you need to be all this stuff is going to be planned. I don't have the specifics on that. I do know, I can't say anything specific, but I can say there are a number of systems that that we've gotten written down that I'm really, really excited for to encourage healthy play styles without being like the overbearing mom of the video game. Like, hey, you have to be nice to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to engage in that, but there's a lot of really, really neat incentive-based structures that we've got written down, and I'm super excited to get those into a larger ecosystem.
Awesome. Good to hear. Right, my last question for you then is just which race is going to be OP?
Oh, it's going to be Herlesh, right? If the gods break through, then you just like win and reality gets erased.
Perfect. I'll play them then, chat. You've heard it here first then. Right, awesome. Well, DoctorBoson, it's been awesome chatting with you. I really do appreciate the opportunity that you and the team have given me to like sit down with you today. I know it's just great for me and chat to kind of get involved, talk about this game, and just seeing that the RTS future is bright, and I'm really looking forward to you guys jumping into beta. Do you have kind of a date of when beta's roughly gonna be, or when you're looking to jump into that?
We don't have a hard date. I think it's currently beta Q1 next year.
Okay. Don't quote you. Okay. Oh.
Early next year is we'll say for that.
Okay, awesome. Sorry, you cut out for me for a second there, and I was like, oh no, he's like cut like 30 seconds before, and I don't get to say goodbye. I was starting to worry. Okay, so potentially Q1, maybe that might be adjusted. Awesome. Right, well, anything you want to say before you jump off?
I want to say thanks for inviting me. I'm excited that you're enjoying our game, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how you integrate with the ecosystem. Just add more and more cool shit for people to experiment with.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm going to be following pace. I'm in the Discord. I'm on the Twitter. I'm checking you guys out, seeing how you guys are developing, and I'll definitely be playing more. Thank you so much, and I'll say goodbye to you now. Thanks to you and the team.
Thank you very much.
All right, see ya.